28 weeks ago, the rule is game. I'm the boss, yeah, I'll take fame with my fantasy team. Gonna rise to the top, no one can stop me. Gonna make them drop.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to 38 Weeks to Go, your weekly podcast about fantasy football. I am your host, Nash, and let's get into it. So, how was Gameweek 27 for you? Well, for me, for the first time in like maybe a month, I did actually something good. I got 72 points, and it was green arrows. It's so weird how fantasy works. You can get 100 and get reds, 80 get reds, get 70, all green everywhere. At least I've stopped my slump. The average was 53. So if you got 53 and above, well done. When looking at the ridiculousness of the week, how the hell did Aston Villa get hammered 4-1? Chelsea score 4 goals, Palmer is nowhere to be seen. Cunha wins man of the match but doesn't get a goal, an assist or anything. Isak doesn't play and many of us don't have a really good sub to come on. But some of us had Rodgers. Rodgers performs after the double game week, like WTF. People like me chose the wrong assistant manager, and the wrong assistant manager was Iraola. 3 weeks. 1-0. 9. Just when you think Bournemouth are going to be good for it, nothing. We should have just chosen Slot or the Crystal Palace guy. After giving up on João Pedro seems to be back. Welbeck as well. Betting on Arsenal, then not being able to do anything, and it seems like the title challenge is over. With some Boomer connection, seems to be working. Is Haaland back? Bowen seems to be somebody definitely worth watching. Looking at the game week, there were 5 clean sheets, which means defense was king. The highest score was Crystal Palace 4, Aston Villa 1. This game was both exciting and disappointing at the same time, in that I thought Aston Villa had turned the corner and would be doing well, but it seems like they're a really difficult team to predict. And on top of that, it's really difficult to see who starts now. Because you'd think Asensio or Rashford have earned it, but it seems like they haven't. It's a weird team right now. Too many options. After a bit of a hiatus, Sarr got amongst the goals. He got 2. Nketiah finally scored in the last minute of the game. Mateta thankfully got on the score sheet. Richards, Eze, Mitchell and Munoz had the assists for the 4 goals. On the other end, Watkins had the assist for Rodgers' goal. For the bonus points, Mateta had 2, Sarr had 3 and Nketiah had 1. It seems like Crystal Palace are a team that performed really well starting the next half of the season, because at a poor start to the season, but since about November, December, they've really been on a roll, and it is continuing. Now it poses a problem because now you start wondering, should I bring in Sarr or maybe Nketiah? Definitely not Nketiah. Now the thing we really have to worry about Crystal Palace is whether Mateta will play. The Millwall keeper kicked him in the head. He's been discharged from hospital. He had like 25 stitches, and we're hoping that he'll play come the weekend. The marquee game of the week. So Liverpool take on Newcastle and Spurs take on City. I guess those are both the marquee games, right? Liverpool just continue their form. Szoboszlai is low-key having a strong finish to the season in a Gundogan type way. McAllister and Szoboszlai had the goals, while Luis Diaz and Salah had the assists. Luis Diaz has been quietly good over the last few games as well. Szoboszlai had the 3 bonus points, Diaz had 2, and Virgil van Dijk had 1. Newcastle were without Isak, and it showed. Callum Wilson had chances, but he just isn't of the same quality. Now, he played in the FA Cup, and we'll be hoping that he will be back. Now, Lewis Hall and Gordon will probably be unavailable for the next match. Gordon got a red card whilst Mr. Lewis Hall got a knock, and he's had to see a specialist, so get him out of the team early. When it comes to Spurs versus Man City, You'd think Spurs at home would put up a better fight, but they went with youth over experience and their kids had no idea what to do. Watching Tell and his friends run, it was a mess. And you could see they played much better when Kulusevski and Son were brought on. This man hasn't figured out what to do with Son. He hasn't figured out his team, really. I think his idea was just to run at them and use the pace of his team to disrupt Man City, but they were running like headless chickens, so it was useless running. Haaland scored the goal. Man City deserved the win. Haaland got 2 bonus points, Ederson got 3, and Virgil got 1. They were the better team, it could have been more, and yeah, that's that. When it comes to a disappointing match, it's probably Crystal Palace 4, Aston Villa 1, mainly because Aston Villa should do better. Every other result was fine, yeah. I mean, Arsenal drawing with Forest, given the squad, that's okay. Man U beating Ipswich, maybe Ipswich could be disappointed, especially since Manchester went down to 10 men. Brentford 1-1, no. West Ham beating Leicester, Leicester should be disappointed, but they have nothing to offer this season. Looking at round points, starting with the goalkeepers, Ederson had 11, Breyer had 6, Jorgensen had 6, Alisson, Sells, Areola had 6. When it comes to defenders, Cucurella was top this weekend with 15. Orwell had 14. O'Brien had 10. Tossin, Williams, Cresswell had 9. As usual, midfield is king. Sarr was a top midfielder with 15, along with Jadon from Ipswich with 15. Nkunku had 12. Neto had 11. Soboslai had 11. Kluivert had 10, Bruno Fernandes and Souček had 10. When it comes to forwards, Wissa and Muniz had 9, João Pedro, Mateta, Haaland had 8, and Welbeck had 7. Let's go over some stats. This week saw Jorginho become the 10th player to make 50-plus Premier League appearances for both Arsenal and Chelsea. Can you guess who the other 9 are? In no particular order, I'll tell them to you. Fabregas, Ashley Cole, David Luiz, Emmanuel Petit, Kai Havertz, Nicolas Anelka, Olivier Giroud, Peter Cech, and William Gallas. Thomas Souček joins a very rare club of people who have scored on their birthdays twice. So just in case you didn't know, Souček was born on February 27th, and he scored on this date this year and last year. Remember this, maybe he'll go for a third one next year if they play on that date. Moises Caicedo has won possession 159 times this season, the most of any player across Europe's top 5 leagues. Liverpool have now scored 2+ goals in 18 consecutive games at Anfield in all competitions. This is the longest run of home games with more than 1 goal scored in succession by an English top 5 club since Sunderland in 1935 when they did it 19 times. Mo Salah has now assisted 17 goals from open play in the Premier League this season. Only Thierry Henry in the 02-03 season has ever made more in a single campaign. He did 20. Arsenal have failed to score in 2 back-to-back games for the first time since May 2023. In the last 3 seasons, only 3 players have scored twice in the first half of a Premier League game at Old Trafford. It doesn't sound that impressive. But anyway, it's Pascal Gross in 2022, Luis Diaz in 2024, and Jadon Philogene for Ipswich. Erling Haaland is only the second player to score 20+ goals in each of his first 3 Premier League seasons. Number 1 was Ruud van Nistelrooy. That's great company. Since Amorim's first game for Manchester United, they've conceded the opening goal in more Premier League games than any other side in the Premier League. Spurs named their second youngest ever starting 11 in a Premier League match at 23 years old and 243 days. The youngest being in 1992 when they had put out an outfield group of players of 23 years old and 97 days youth. It did not help him, and it showed. Archie Gray becomes the second Tottenham player to make 20 Premier League games before turning 19. The first one to do it was Aaron Lennon. Since he last scored or assisted on January 14, Cole Palmer is the only Premier League player with 25 plus shots and chances created without a goal or assist. Arsenal managed only 3 shots on target against both West Ham and Nottingham Forest. 3 across 180 minutes. Chris Wood has a conversion rate of 87.5. That is just ridiculous. It is the best conversion rate of any player to attempt 5 plus shots in this calendar year. Cunha went nuts against Bournemouth over the FA Cup fixture list, and he will be banned for minimum of 2 games. It's probably going to be 4, and if you should watch it, you'll be very surprised about how he reacts. It doesn't make any sense, but yeah. The most selected player was Salah. Most captain player was Salah. Most vice captain was Palmer. Mateta was the most brought in player with 204,000 people bringing him in. Munoz 157,000. Cunha 147,000. Kluivert 111,000. Szoboszlai 111,000. Top players out: Isak 211,000. Palmer 161,000. Cunha 157,000 because of that red card that I spoke about. Robinson 99,000. Mateta 85,000. So you see, this is a perfect example of why you shouldn't make your changes so early. Mateta got injured over the FA Cup. But it's not clear whether he'll be unavailable or not. But anyway, that happened. Then Cunha got red carded. And now 2 strikers are possibly, well, one is definitely unavailable, but the other one is questionable. And this is why you sort of wait for these midweek fixtures to finish, and then you come again. The average of the game week was 53, and the highest points this game week was 120. And the name of the manager with the top team is Hogo 2010 on TT. In goal, he had Jose Sarr, who gave him 2 points. Timber, who gave him 6. Cucurella, who gave him 15. Colwell, who gave him 14. Ismaila Sarr, who gave him 15. Mo Salah, who gave him 6. Iwobi, who gave him 1. Luis Diaz, who gave him 8. Haaland, who gave him 8. Welbeck, who gave him 7. Wissa, who was his captain, gave him 18. And he had used his manager chip. Glasner gave him 20. In our group, Charles Cadavillis got 99 points. Well done to you, sir. And just like the top manager, he too had used his assistant manager chip. Pickford was his goalie with 2 points. Gabriel had 7. Colwell had 14. Trent had 6. Salah had 6. Enzo had 3. Kluivert had 10. Palmer had 6 as captain. Sarr had 15. Wissa had 9. And Raul Jimenez had 1. And he was very lucky because he had Isak who didn't play, and his first sub was Sarr. And this is why it's very important to organize your bench. You just never know who's going to be missing. So in number 2, we had Sarchivini Letincook, who had 80 points. Mike Wow had 75 points. Number 4 had 73 points. And that is Escobar Reason. And there was a tie for number 5, which is me. And Team Monster, managed by Dijan Raman Dango, who had 72. When it comes to most transfers, Don Clinton is our leader again. He made 11 transfers. So he lost in total 36 points and he got 59 points. I'm not sure if this is much of a game plan. When it comes to highest change in team value, yours truly, managed by Dennis Alubiri, has added 0.4 to his bank. When it comes to overall rank riser, Letting Book has increased his global position by 503 positions. In our league, Charlie's Reds has jumped 15 positions. Charlie's Reds are managed by Charles Cardavillis. Our highest team squad value this week belongs to Suraj by Gane, 106.4. When it comes to a streak of green arrows, Joe Mbogwa has seen his green arrows rise for the 9th week in a row. Well done to you, sir. When it comes to the teams with the most goal scorers, Charles Cardavillis, again, had 5 goals scored by his players. When it comes to the best transfer outcome, Big Man Bossy, managed by Anil Midunga, gained 23 points from his changes. Amaru 17 gained 17 along with Dope FC. Don't Mind got 13 and Cruise Controller got 12. When it comes to captain choices, 149 of us chose Salah to be our captain. 43 of us chose Palmer. I'm so sorry to you all. Haaland was chosen by 16. Isak was chosen by 8. I hope your vice captain wasn't Palmer. Mamouche was chosen by 2. Many Mamouche believers. Bowen chosen by 2. Solanke by 2. Kluivert by 2. Savinho by 1. Wood by 1. Cunha by 1. Rashford by 1. Højlund by 1. Fernandes by 1. KDB by 1. Gakpo by 1. Trent, Delap, Bumo, Watkins by 1 manager. When it comes to most disappointing transfer outcomes, I guess it wouldn't surprise you if I told you it was Don Clinton. Had he kept his team, he would have gained 52 points more than he did. I think that is the highest this season. Those are bad decisions. Those are very many bad decisions. Number 2 is Capien de Massive, negative 20. Oh, and they did so well last week. Melvin Asakanya, negative 14. Mike Mbogwa, negative 10. And at number 5, we have Fleek United, Bode Blachowicz, and Leon's Island, all negative 9. And those are the managers who made the worst decisions this week. When it comes to people who had the most points on the bench, number 1 is Kumo Mutinda, who had 20 points on the bench. Folwell was his last sub with 14 points. And then he had Strand Larsen with 1 and Milenkovic with 5. Number 2 is Pitstank, who had 19 on the bench. Dijan Rahman Dangol had 18 on the bench. Dennis Com had 17 on the bench. Nathan Riak and Yaya had 16 points on the bench. When it comes to teams that have lost value, Onyango Mandela's team Katambe has lost a value of 0.4. When it comes to the most decrease in overall rank, absolutely nobody, managed by PG Ongari, dropped 387,000 points. Ranks globally. When it comes to streaks of red arrows, manager Collins Kogi, manager of Team Bitcoin, seems to be following the trend and has a streak of red arrows, 9th straight arrow in a row. When it comes to our lowest points, Dandaman Borneo, managed by Randy Augusta, they have the lowest points this week with 33. So in goal, they had Henderson, who had 2 points. Punate, 6. Ait Nuri, 1. Mauzrui, 0. Pedro Porro, 2. Palma, 6. Bomo, 5. Salah, 6. Mitoma, 2. Gakpo, 1. Wood, 2. At least this is a team that's active. Abel Kivunja had 34 points, along with PG Ongeri. Number 4 is Aflagani, and number 5 is Abdallah Rashid, 36 points. The lowest team value is Malik United, 96.6. And the person who has dropped the most in our league rankings this week is Melvin Asakanya, who has dropped 15 places from last week. When it comes to making fixtures for Gameweek 28, you sort of have to look at Gameweek 29. Aston Villa, Crystal Palace, Liverpool, and Newcastle will not play. in Game Week 29. Therefore, if you can, for example, if you don't have your free hit for next week, use this week to better prepare you for the absences of your Matetas and your Salahs and your Isaks. Something else to consider is that there's going to be Champions League this week, starting tomorrow on Tuesday. And therefore, it is important that you kind of wait to see if there'll be any further injuries before confirming your teams. And of course, when I say Champions League, I also just mean European fixtures. Now that that is out of the way, Man City and Nottingham Forest will be playing the first game of the weekend. Man City don't have Champions League, so you don't need to worry about that. But Nottingham Forest have a fixture on Monday night, which is tonight. And in that game, anything could happen. So if you're banking on this fixture, wait until that game is over to know who's available. Even in the strong season that Forest are having, they were hammered by City 3-0 last time they met. And in their last 5 results, it's been 4 wins for City and 1 win for Forest. I believe this trend will continue. I think City are the better team. Forest a bit up and down, so it's hard to know which one will show up, but I'm giving the edge to Manchester City. Haaland, Marmoush, and Savinho or Doku are your favorites for this fixture from the City side. From the other end, should you believe that there's an upset, you should look to Mr. Wood, Gibbs White, Elanga, or Hudson-Odoi, whichever one works for you. In this one, it's going to be very difficult for this game to have a draw. So I would encourage you to maybe, unless you believe you have a defender that will be scoring or assisting, I would encourage you to move away from them. For Man City, Stones, Akanji, Ake, Bob, and Rodri are unavailable, whilst Miguel is currently the only unknown player, or rather the only unavailable player for Forest. City was successful last time out and Nottingham Forest drew against Arsenal, so both got good results. So they'll be looking to build up on them. Brighton take on Fulham. Both teams are in good form. Brighton won last time against Newcastle, whilst Fulham beat Wolves. Both won by a scoreline of 2-1. Their head-to-head strongly favors Fulham, with 4 wins to Fulham and 1 draw. I'll be honest, I'm a little surprised about that. It's so interesting. I'm just looking at the goal scorers for Fulham, and each game of the last 5 fixtures has seen like 8 different goal scorers. I thought there'd be somebody who is like, Adama Traore scores against Brighton. No, it's nothing like that. It seems like on this day, anybody can score. So your best guess is your best guess. However, Moniz, Anthony Robinson, and Iwobi are the people I would recommend. On the other end, Minte, Mitoma, and your choice between Welbeck and João Pedro are the people I'd recommend. Lamptey, Kadioglu, Igor, Milner, Steele, Veltman, and Dunk are unavailable for Brighton, whilst Lukic, Wilson, Tete, and Nelson are unavailable for Fulham. Crystal Palace take on Ipswich, and I'm really hoping Mateta is okay, because he got a nasty knock from the Millwall keeper in the FA Cup. Now, Crystal Palace won this fixture last time 1-0 with Mateta scoring, and they kept a clean sheet. A clean sheet is possible, but Ipswich can score. You saw Sarr Philogene the other day. So for Crystal Palace, if Mateta is fit, choose him. But the thing is, this game week 29, so I don't want to encourage you to choose Crystal Palace players unless you have free hit, because they're going to miss next week. But if you don't care and you're just playing week by week, choose Mateta, choose your Eze, and choose your Munoz. On the other end, choose your Hutchinson, choose Jaden, choose Delap. Crystal Palace have Riyad, Doucouré, Mateta possibly injured, and Ward unavailable. Muric, Ogbene, Walton, Chaplin, and Cecil. Phillips, Hutchinson, take away Hutchinson, he's not available. And Burns are unavailable. Liverpool versus Southampton. relegation favorites versus the best team in the country. And I'm not even sure of saying relegation favorites. I should say champions elect and relegation elect. Now, for Southampton, don't choose anybody from this fixture. But if you must, Silmana Onwahu Dibling. Liverpool, you can get your Trent, you can get your Soboslai, and you can get your Salah. And I think those are the best. Unless you want to get Diaz because he's been doing well of late. Bradley, Gomez, and Morton are injured for Liverpool. I'm really worried about Morton, guys. Anyway, Lallana, Bednarek, Ugochukwu, Stewart, and Fraser are unavailable for Southampton. Their head-to-head favours Liverpool, as you can imagine. And yeah, this is Liverpool for the win. Easy, Salah captain. Brentford versus Aston Villa. This will be an interesting game. Aston Villa will have just played in Europe, so I'm going to gamble against them because they seem to suffer after Europe. So, pick Brentford. Wissa, Bumo, and Damsgaard. Clean. On the other end, you can say Rodgers, Watkins, and maybe Asensio. Their head-to-head has 2 3-3 draws and 2 wins for Aston Villa and another draw, which is just 1-1. So it's usually either Aston Villa will win or they will draw. But I am thinking because of Champions League, they can be gotten at. And so I'm just going to be tricky and just favor Brentford in this tie. Onana, Malen, Cash, Torres, Barkley, Mings are unavailable for Villa. Look at that. Given those absences, what are you saying? Okay, Vandenberg, Henry, Da Silva, Rodrigue, Gomez, Nogard, Hickey are unavailable for Brentford. But they have no midweek game, so they'll be fresher. Wolves versus Everton. Honestly, I was really excited for Wolves fixtures because they're kinder to them now. But then Cunha's gone and gotten himself a 4-match suspension. So that is going to make it tough for Wolves. Unless you really believe in like Strand Larsen or Munetsi or maybe Sarabia. I don't know. On the other end, so let's wait. Let's just see. So Cunha, Agbadu, Gonzalez, Guedes, Chiwome, Gomez, Kalacic, Mosquera are unavailable for Wolves. Kalacic, man, this guy's just been injured. Anyway, Coleman, Mangala, Ndiaye, McNeil, Calvert-Lewin, Broja, and Doucouré are unavailable for Everton. So this means if you want a sneaky bet for Everton, you can take Beto, of course, Alcaraz, and maybe one of the defenders, be it Mikolenko or Tarkowski or Branthwaite, whichever one you prefer. I don't want to use their head-to-head because both of these people have new managers, or rather both of these teams have new managers, and both of them are playing much differently than they have in the recent past. When it comes to Sunday, you have Chelsea playing on Leicester, and this is, I told you, I think a podcast or two ago, that a very viable tactic is just betting against Leicester and possibly also Southampton, but really Leicester doing nothing. So I honestly would get a Chelsea defender, a Chelsea Palmer. Well, actually, I'm done with Palmer after this game. And Nkunku. I honestly believe that Leicester will be smashed. I'm honestly thinking of going like Neto, Colwill, and Nkunku. Let's look at the unavailable players. For Chelsea, Badiashile, Fofana, Slonina, Guiu, Jackson, Madueke, Lavia, Chaloba are unavailable, whilst Pereira, Edouard, Fatau, Sota are unavailable for Leicester. Chelsea beat them last time 2-1. Chelsea were impressive last time out. Palmer disappointed last time out. Leicester City were disappointing last time out, and they should continue to be disappointing. They have been unable to score in, 1, 2, 3, 4 of the last 5 games. Should you believe that anything is possible from this team? I guess you have Buonanotte, Vardy, and maybe El Canus, but it's tough. And for Chelsea, if you have Palmer, this should be your last chance with him. Apart from that, Neto, Nkunku, and a defender. Now, next would be Tottenham versus Bournemouth. This will be a very exciting game. Bournemouth and Tottenham have not been impressive of late, so both teams will be looking to bounce back. Both teams took L's on the weekend and will be looking to do better. The last 5 encounters have seen Tottenham win thrice and Bournemouth win twice. Most recently, Bournemouth won 1-0 and Huijsen was the goal scorer. Now, the man in form on that team is Kluivert. Evan Nilsson came back and should be available. I don't know if he will play, but you have Kluivert, Semenyo, and Ouattara. The problem with Spurs is that the manager might try to be clever and get his ass beaten again like he was the last time out. Because I would really like to recommend Son, Kulusevski, and Maddison. But he might end up playing with the other ones, the kid. Now, looking at the unavailable players, Davis, Romero, Solanke, Van de Ven, Dragusin, and Richarlison are out for Spurs, whilst Christie, Senesi, Araujo, Unal, Smith, and Zabarani are unavailable for Bournemouth. Spurs will be playing in Europe on Thursday, so it might mean that they won't be as fresh as they could be. And so depending on how he does his rotation, it will be tricky. So I would encourage you to wait until after this game on Thursday when they take on AZ Alkmaar before choosing Spurs players. But tentatively, I would say since Brennan Johnson is back, he has been in good form this season. Him, Kulusevski, and Son. The most popular match of the weekend, I don't want to call it a marquee match because it isn't at this point. Manchester United versus Arsenal. Arsenal are not in great form right now. They are better than Manchester United, but they have so many missing players that things might balance out. Manchester United are in a transition and they're just not looking good. Fine, they beat Ipswich, but they lost to Fulham. But Fulham are better than Ipswich, so that makes sense. I'm just not sure if Arsenal can overcome their missing players. Saka, Jesus, Martinelli, Havertz, and Tomiyasu are unavailable. Whilst Bayender, Dogu, Ahmad, Evans, Mainu, Martinez, Shaw, Mount, Collier are unavailable for Man United. So both teams are not where they want to be, and both teams are missing players that they would have loved to have had. And this makes this game a bit of a wild card. Obviously, Bruno Fernandes is the first pick from Manchester United, followed by Garnacho and Højlund Ozexi, whichever one rocks your boat. And for Arsenal, Nwaneri, Trossard, and possibly Gabriel. You know, Arsenal beat them last time with corners and set pieces, so maybe that's what they will do. They'll just rely on Manchester United's inability to defend set pieces, and maybe that's where they'll get their gold. So maybe Gabriel would be the one to really look at in this fixture. And then on Monday, West Ham will take on Newcastle. In their recent fixtures, Newcastle have won 2 and drawn 2 and lost 1, but they lost the most recent one. West Ham have picked up form of late, and they could be surprisingly good in this one. If you believe that to be the case, I think your 3 best players are Souček, Bowen, and Wan-Bissaka. On the Newcastle end, Lewis Hall is unavailable. He is the most notable miss from the back because he's been really good of late. Isak played in the FA Cup, so maybe that means he's back. Aaron Gordon got a red card. I'm not sure if he'll be available for this game. And so it might be wise to stay clear of Newcastle just for right now, especially since they will be having the game week absent from game week 29. So just stay clear of them for now. But if you love them so much and you can't not choose them, Isak, Murphy, and maybe Miley. When it comes to choosing a captain choice, Forest versus City, it's possible to choose Wood, or Haaland. Brighton, Fulham, no. Crystal Palace, Ipswich, no. Liverpool, Southampton, yes. Salah, clean. Osoboslai, he's been great. Brentford versus Aston Villa. If Villa continue the current form, Brentford could surprise you with a 4-1 victory and Bomo leading the way. Wolves versus Everton, I wouldn't choose a captain this game week. Chelsea versus Leicester, there's potential here, and I think you have got 3 good choices or candidates for captaincy. One being Mr. Palmer, of course, Nkunku, and Neto. Spurs versus Bournemouth, I wouldn't choose a captain. Man United versus Arsenal, not a captain. West Ham, Newcastle, not a captain. I think the other people are more likely to be more fruitful. So, I forgot to look at the number 1 team in the world. The number 1 team in the world is Elite T, managed by the Elite team. They got 56 points and they have 64 points. Now, I got more than them, so at least in this game we come better than them. Anyway, in goal they have Pickford, then they have Munoz, Trent, Gabriel, Vardiol, Bumo, Ouattara, Palmer captain, Salah vice captain, Wood, and Wissa. Isak didn't play, and they had Olaina and Winks on the bench. So if that's a team that interests you, that might be a team you want to copy. When looking at the FPL FDR, Arsenal take on Manchester United, Chelsea, Fulham, Everton, and Brentford. And at this point, it's not looking great for Arsenal. They have lost too many players that make them more dynamic, and therefore, unless you're banking on clean sheets or Gabriel scoring, it'll be tough for them moving forward. I thought Nwaneri had it, but it doesn't seem to be enough. Aston Villa have Brentford, Blank, Brighton, Forest, Southampton. Now with Aston Villa players, just bring them in after the break. Actually, if you don't have to, don't bring them in. Their fixtures aren't kind. Bournemouth have Tottenham, Brentford, Ipswich, West Ham, and Fulham. These are better fixtures than Villa's. Bournemouth can beat all of these teams. And if you believe that, Kluivert, maybe a defender, and maybe Semenyo are people you could be looking at. Brentford have Aston Villa, Bournemouth, Newcastle, Chelsea, Arsenal. So their fixtures just become increasingly difficult. Actually, these are 5 difficult fixtures. I honestly wouldn't recommend you enter them, but if you must, maybe just have one. Maybe have either Mbumo or Damsgaard. Because should they score, Damsgaard will be involved. But should they score, you know it's going to be either Mbumo or Wissa or Shada. Brighton have Fulham, City, Villa, Crystal Palace, Leicester. Brighton have been strong of late. And I think apart from City, I believe they can beat everybody else. It's just a matter of picking the right player. Is it Mente? Is it Welbeck? Is it João Pedro? Is it Mitoma? That's a decision you're left with. Chelsea have Leicester, Arsenal, Spurs, Brentford, Ipswich. Now, Arsenal in theory would have been a difficult game, but Arsenal are not informed. Chelsea will have an easy fixture, in quotes, versus Leicester. And then they can figure themselves out in the next fixtures. So they're worth looking into. Crystal Palace have Ipswich, then a blank, then Southampton, then Brighton, and then they have a double game week. And this double game week is game week 32. Everton, so for Crystal Palace, keep their players. Playing Ipswich and Southampton is nice. Okay, Everton. Everton have Wolverhampton Wanderers, then West Ham, Liverpool, Arsenal, Forest. So they have 2 good fixtures, and then their fixtures becoming difficult. So pace yourself with them. They've been better under Moyes, and this will be a true test. Fulham have Brighton, Spurs, Arsenal, Liverpool, and Bournemouth. Fulham on the day can beat anybody. They're tough to beat, and they're competitive. I would say only Liverpool are a really difficult team here for them, and I believe they could get something from the other fixtures. It's just a matter of who from who. They've been getting too much equal performances from people. And by that, I just mean you don't know who's going to perform, but they will perform. Ipswich have Crystal Palace, Forest, Bournemouth, Wolves, Chelsea. They should be competitive. Maybe they'll win one, or maybe they'll lose all. It's Ipswich. Leicester have Chelsea, Man United, City, Newcastle, Brighton. They should lose all of those games. Do not get into them. Liverpool have Southampton, then a blank, then Everton, Fulham, West Ham. Great fixtures for them. Apart from the blank, I would say keep your players, put them on the bench. If you have a free hit, you're not worried. If you don't have, Polisana. Man City have Forest, Brighton, Leicester, Man United, Crystal Palace. These are nice fixtures for them. I think this will be good to help them build their confidence. So get into them. Man United have Arsenal, Leicester, Forest, City, Newcastle. Get out of Manchester United. If you must have a player, if you must have Bruno. Newcastle have West Ham, then a blank, Brentford, Leicester, and then a double game week. Now, the thing about Newcastle is that this blank is they're playing in the cup final against Liverpool. So that's why there's a blank. Now, after West Ham and the blank, you can have their players. Forest have City, Ipswich, Man United, Villa, Everton. Forest have been patchy of late, and so I can't really tell how to figure them out. So I believe they can beat Ipswich for sure. I believe they can beat Man United. They can beat Aston Villa. They can beat Everton. So if you believe that to be true, then after the Man City game, bring their players in. Southampton have Liverpool, Wolves, Crystal Palace, Spurs, and Aston Villa. Southampton are going to probably use all of them, so just get out of them. Don't bother. Spurs have Bournemouth, Fulham, Chelsea, Southampton, and Wolves. For Spurs, all games are winnable. Now, their most immediate fixture will be affected by Europe, but after that, I can see them beating all the rest or getting something out of them, or at least being competitive. It just depends on what their manager decides to do. West Ham have Newcastle, Everton, Wolves, Bournemouth, and Liverpool. After Newcastle, their games are slightly easier until they reach Liverpool. And I believe they could get 6 out of possible 15 in these fixtures. And if Bowen is fit, he will be integral to all of these results. Wolves have Everton, Southampton, West Ham, Ipswich, and then Tottenham. Cunha will be suspended for all 4 of those games, and these are all games he would have delighted in. So even if they're easy looking, they will be slightly more difficult now. So I would wait and see how they perform against Everton to see how they're going to cope without Cunha in order to see who the replacement is. Is it Strand Larsen? Is it Munetsi? Is it the Korean guy? Is it Bellegarde? Let's see who comes out from this Cunha-less Wolves. And with that, I hope you have a great rest of your week. Enjoy the midweek football, and we'll see you on the weekend. Bye.